Hi everyone, welcome to episode 210. This is the Wool and Spinning podcast and my name is Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as well for pearls, and I've actually changed my Instagram handle, so I'm now Wool and Spinning. So just like the podcast, Wool and Spinning, all one word. I just thought that it was maybe a bit easier to keep everything sort of the same. So Wool and Spinning on Instagram, and I kept Well for Pearls on Ravelry because that's kind of more of like a personal thing. It's sort of your person rather than like the podcast. So welcome everybody. I hope that you're all doing really super well. It's so good to see everybody in the chat. I feel totally out of practice with live streaming because it's been 2 full weeks, and it always feels like if we miss one Saturday, it feels like a lifetime. So welcome to new viewers. I hope that you find something here that you enjoy and that you like, and welcome to returning viewers, and thank you for watching the show week in, week out, and for following along with my work and with the things that go on here in the community. Thank you especially to the Patreon community. You guys are the ones that keep the lights on week after week after week and keep me doing what I love to do and bringing all of this content to you, especially the teaching vlogs and the PDFs and the photography and all the things. So if you wouldn't mind to take a moment to like and subscribe, I would really appreciate that. So it's good to see everybody. We've got Eve and Dorothy, Dana, Diane, Linnea, Leanne, Josie, Elise, Mary, Jenny, Barb, Sam, Tracy, Glenda, our other Dana. We've got lots of Danas in the community right now. I don't know why. Lots of Ruths too. So welcome everybody. There's Kim and Tessa. Oh, I haven't seen you for a while, Tessa. Are you going to Knit City in October? Yeah, I am sunburned. Yes, Sharon, very good. So I wore tons of sunscreen. We were away all week. We were camping. Hi, Amanda. We were camping all week. And last week, so not this past week that we just finished yesterday, but the week before, was an absolutely terrible week. And so that's why I took the podcast off last Saturday. I just couldn't put it on and do the show. It was just a bit too much of a week. And so thank you so much for understanding and for being so patient, and for recognizing that sometimes I need a break too. And then I took Monday to Friday, I took the kids away with my mom. There's pop-ups coming up on the computer. I took my mom away and we went in the trailer. We went up to Merritt, British Columbia. So for those who know this area, it's about 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it takes just over because we're towing up there from our house, and we had a great time. I was very tired for the beginning of the week. I probably wasn't my best self. I apologized to my mom a couple of times, and she was like, no, it's okay. I understand. But the kids had a great time, and I wore a ton of sunscreen, but it was the wind. The wind got me on Thursday, and my mom got it too, and so did Nora, and so did James. So, watch out for that wind. And then on our way back, there were big signs on the Coquihalla. There's actually forest fires burning right at the road, so you're not allowed to stop. They want you to keep on driving, obviously. So the kids got to see all the helicopters and stuff, and there was fire crews at the side of the road, and it was kind of exciting. The smoke was really heavy. But we really lucked out. We didn't have a lot of smoke where we were, so very, very grateful for that. Lots of gratitude, because I know there are people in the province, in Washington as well, and across the prairies who are really struggling with a lot of smoke. So we were lucky, but I think it's because that wind that goes through the Nicola Valley. So that was our week, and now we're back. So we're back for a couple of weeks, and then we're gone again. So you guys know that at the end of August, I do tend to take a couple of weeks off of the podcast, give my voice a break. This time round we will do, so the 1 week we will have cell service, and then the next week we'll actually be completely out of cell service. So what I'm going to do is the 1 week we'll have a premiere like we did last summer, and then we'll take a week off, and that'll kind of be my vacation, if you will, for the year. So thank you so much, you guys, for sort of seeing me through all this. August is always a little bit of a weird month because we come and go a lot, and unfortunately because of where we go, we're often out of cell service and cell range, so it's harder to sort of manage some of the podcast stuff unless I queue it up ahead of time. So I appreciate you guys walking that path with me. On today's show, last time, which is feels like a lifetime ago. I don't know how you guys feel, but it feels like a lifetime ago. 2 weeks ago, we did the gray Suffolk, and we looked at the gray Suffolk, and it's a wool that's from somewhere in the UK. It's probably from sort of the county of Suffolk, the area of Suffolk, but it's not Suffolk in the sense of like being breed specific. So what we're going to do today is, out of my stash, I pulled out some Roving from my friend Margaret that is actually 100% Suffolk. It's local to me, and we will talk about that and get on the wheel, which is all set up right here. And the other thing is, I didn't actually do a lot this week. I pulled out my e-spinner once, and I didn't even finish a full bobbin, which was my plan. I did finish my Rito Archot before we left, so we can talk about that really quickly. And I made a little bit of progress on both my sweaters that I'm working on right now, but honestly, like, not a lot. My larch cardigan, I did quite a bit of work on last week before we left. And then I fixed my enchanté, so we'll talk about that today. Thank you, Josie. She says, you take too little vacations. You need it. You must need it so much. I've actually found, coming through the last 20 months, I kind of went all right through, because we were so active in our community. We were all making it home. We were being home. I didn't feel like I really needed a reset, but this August, I think it's all kind of caught up with me a little bit. And now I'm really feeling like I need a reset. I need a break. I need some time off. And a lot of it is because it's not because I have lost my making mojo per se. It's because I need a break from the house. I think everybody's feeling that way. I need a break from these four walls. That's really what it is. And I want to sit here and work on my tea towels, and I want to work on my spinning, and I want to work on my stuff, but I don't want to be home. I don't want to be out and like at a park and just visiting, because I find that just equally exhausting. I just want to be like in the wilderness. I want to be in the mountains. I think that's why this last week was so good for me. All right, let's run the credits and we will get onto the wheel. So with this spinning sheep breeds kit from the School of Sweet Georgia that goes with my new workshop, the spinning the sheep breeds, there's like different parts of the kit. So there's the fine to medium, and then there's the long wools, and then there's the down wools. So the gray Suffolk is in the down wools. So what I am spinning and what I'm working on for today's show is not in the kit. It is from my own personal stash, okay? And this is Roving, and we had a great question in the chat, and actually Eve answered it already, so thank you so much, Eve. But Linnea says, is there a difference between Roving and tops? So yes, there's a huge difference. Great question, Linnea. And basically, the carded is where your preparation is all misaligned. It goes through the cards, through a big carder. This is commercially prepared, although it's from fleeces from my friend Margaret. So if you see, if I pull this apart, there's absolutely no alignment of the fibers there at all. So it's all just jumbled. It kind of looks like a cotton ball when you pull it out, and it's just all tangled, and it almost kind of looks like it could come off in layers a little bit. This Roving is really, really, really big, and it's actually a little bit unruly to spin because it is so big. And if you pull it apart, like what I've been doing while we've been chatting, you can actually open it up almost like a bat. It's so big. And so this was the stuff that I used to spin some of the socks that were included in all of that How I Spin content when we got into all those different yarns and all the different types of socks. That was the springboard for the spinning socks workshop on the School of Sweet Georgia. So if you haven't seen all of that content and you haven't looked at all of that content, have a look at the index that sort of, some of it is public, some of it is private, in terms of like you have to be a member of the woolen spinning community to get access to it. And then there's the ebook for certain tiers that can download it for free. And that's all linked in the index. So basically what you can, so you can see there that carded prep sort of, it's all, there's no alignment. The fibers are all, they're not parallel, they're all tangled, and they're all just kind of jumbled together. This is great for the downs. The down breeds spin up very nicely from a carded prep. Now when it's combed, the fibers are all nicely aligned and they go in the same direction. And if you're spinning a true worsted yarn, you're spinning from butt to tip, the fibers are all aligned in the same direction, and you would rewind your singles so that you're also plying from the same end, and it makes those very smooth worsted spun yarns. This is where the time and the care and the attention when it comes to the long wools, your hard work really pays off with beautiful silky smooth yarns. With the downs, that three-dimensional crimp where the crimp is kind of going in all different directions, they don't know that they want to be neighbors with each other, all those different fibers. And so carding them all up really works well together, because then they just end up with this fuzzy, bouncy, like look at the bulk of this, like it just bounces right back. This is quite dry. It's been sitting for many years. It's been, it's not a really, really lovely prep anymore because it is so dry. But what I do is I strip it down, and these fibers, because they don't really know that they want to be neighbors and that they want to be friends, they're all kind of pushing against each other. And that gives you that, the unreliability when it comes to felting. So they tend to be fibers that don't felt very easily. They will felt if you push them hard enough, but they won't felt readily. Let me just thread my Lendrum here because I never got that all set up and ready to go. I actually had a bit of a panic attack this morning. And I'm not a high anxiety person at all, but I was like, I woke up at whatever time it was. I had a really good sleep last night. I didn't sleep very well all week. And I was in Nora's bed, and her bunk is quite small, which is fine. But every time you turn, you kind of have to wake up and turn yourself. So because my mom and Nora were in me and Mike's bed in the dinette. We've got a glorified queen size bed. It's really like an extra large, it's really like a double, but it's an extra large double. So it's not quite a queen. And so my mom and Nora were in there, and then I took Nora's bed, and James was above me. And I slept well, but I didn't sleep like exceptionally well. So let me move the cameras around. All right, so what we'll do is we'll pivot to the wheel. I'm gonna put on my spinning apron because that does seem to help you guys to be able to see, so that there's not a bunch of stuff underneath me and you're not, jeans and legs and stuff. I find when people are demoing, it kind of gets in the way a little bit. Now let me just catch up if there's any questions before we get into the spinning, because sometimes it's a bit hard for me to see. Okay, so bats and roving, great question, Linnea. Let's just go to that for just a sec. So bats come off of the carder, and they're these big flat things, and a bat would come off looking more like this. This is roving. This isn't pin drafted roving, so that's even more confusing. Pin drafted roving is even a little bit smaller. Pin drafted roving tends to be more like this and a little bit smaller, and people actually, you would have to have a pin drafter. Bats come off of big industrial carders, and they tend to be quite large, or like people have drum carders that they have at home that are their own personal drum carders, and they can hold anywhere between, like a wild card I think can hold something like 30 grams, so whatever that is in ounces, so about 1.5 ounces, or you can get a carder like mine that holds about 50 to 60 grams really nicely, so about 2 to 2.5 ounces really beautifully. And then you can get the extra wide carders, the bigger carders that hold 100 grams or just shy, and they come off as these flat things, so a little bit different. So you can also make pony style row legs that come off of a blending board that look like this. And these are done by painting the fiber onto a blending board and then pulling them off with dowels. And I just happen to have these sitting right here because this is some content coming up in the fall. So that's off of a blending board. And then these are rovings that have come out of the mill after the carding process. So very, very big, very unruly. You probably wouldn't want to spin straight from this and just spin this, which is why I pull them out, pull them apart, and then I strip them down. So this is kind of an odd preparation because these aren't really what I would normally be spinning. And then I sort of draft them out a little bit just to keep that air in there. This is very dry, so I want to try to preserve as much air in there as possible. Not that the airiness has anything to do with the dryness. They're two completely different things. It's just that if I can make a lofty, airy yarn, and then when I go to wash it, I'll soak it in eucalyptus for quite a long time. And eucalyptus replaces or puts back in some of that natural lanolin again, and hopefully I can get the yarn sort of, you know, brought back to life again, if you will. So I hope that helps. Now let's pivot to the wheel. I have to push the right button first. Yes, Sam, camel and silk up my nose. I know the struggle is real, isn't it? All right, so I actually have found recently that I've really been quite affected by some of that stuff, and it's really gotten into my nose and been really uncomfortable. And I've actually found that I'm not quite as resilient to it as I used to be, and I'm wondering if I'm kind of developing some sensitivities, just like I did to alpaca, which is really too bad if that's the case. Now I'm going to move myself up here, so I'm sorry that the angle isn't great to talk from. I know that I can reverse myself so that I'm facing the right way, but I'm not actually sure how to do that on the spare of the moment. So I'm kind of facing the wrong way. Maybe I'll move myself up here. Maybe that's a bit better. All right, so we're gonna take this. It's just because I'm gonna end up doing long draw. I just know that I am, because I've spun this fiber quite a number of times and I kind of know. So I've set my Lendrum up on the fastest ratio that I have access to on this flyer. So this is the fast flyer. It's not the very fast flyer. This down here is 17:1, 15:1, and then 12:1. So I'm on the fastest one at 17:1. And the reason for that is that once I get going, I am able to, let me just get my take up right here. I am able to get enough twist up into the fiber supply that I can actually go straight to a long draw sort of mechanism. And you can see how quickly that works. Now we want to make sure that we're adding enough twist, that my feet aren't going too slowly. And I'm looking for that tug. We've talked about this before on the show. As I draw back, now I'm allowing the twist to go into the singles, and I'm waiting for that invisible tug that you sometimes have to close your eyes for to feel. And it's almost like the fiber, the singles, once they're formed and once they have enough twist when you're doing long draw, it's almost like the wheel just kind of pulls you on. You have to feel for it. If you try to do it ahead of time, see how it won't feed on. There's just not quite enough twist in those singles. And if you fight against it for too long and you hold your singles out here for too long, they start to get really wiry and really ropey, and they start to tangle on themselves. So you want to feel for that invisible pull. This was a trick that I got from my friend Kim McKenna, who blogs over at Clada Fiber Arts. And as soon as she taught that to me, I was just like, of course, like I can totally feel that. So you just feel that invisible tug. If you can't feel it, close your eyes, because you may end up with some broken singles. You may end up with some tangled singles, but your hands know what to do. They know what to feel for. And your eyes, Kim and I actually spent quite a bit of time talking about this. Your eyes, when it comes to your spinning, often get in the way. So there's a big chunk here of just tangled roving. So I'm just gonna pull that off and let that go. It's a little bit, this roving is a little bit neppy in places, and that's okay. Again, it's not a new roving, it's quite dry. So what you could do, a couple of things that you could do with this is have a little bit of olive oil or lavender oil sitting in a little bowl next to you, and you could put it on your fingertips. And I didn't want to do this for the show because then I'd have oil on my hands for the rest of the show. But basically what you can do is put it on your fingertips. So dip your fingertips into the bowl and then get it all over your hands, just a teeny tiny bit, and you rub it all over your hands. And then you go down your roving like this and just squeeze it, and all of these little rovings that we've got prepped, you just go all the way down and just squeeze, 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 squeeze. And it just conditions it and puts a little bit of conditioner back in, and allows those fibers to just slip over each other a little bit more nicely. I know that's like really bad grammar. I'm sorry to all the teachers out there, but a little bit more nicely, and it just makes the spinning experience a little bit more enjoyable. Now I'm just catching the chat. Yeah, Zan, I hope that answered your question. No, it's not the dust that I seem to be sensitive to with the alpaca and the camel and stuff. It actually, with the alpaca, it seems to be the alpaca itself, because I even get quite sensitive if I'm spinning like a top, like a comb top. It doesn't, even if it's not like fleece, if it's prepared, I still seem to get sensitive. So, all right, so when you come to the end like this, I actually didn't catch it quite in time. What you can do is just lay your new fiber together, and you just sort of keep going as if there's no break, as if there's no join at all. Just make sure you're getting lots of twist in there. And what I thought I would do, if this is helpful, let me know in the chat. We've been doing 2-ounce samples of everything from the Spinning Sheep Breeds kit. So what I've measured out here is 2 ounces of the 100% Suffolk breed specific fiber. So this is actually Suffolk from Suffolk sheep. So you can see that it's very, very downy, very bouncy, very springy, like we've been talking about. Really lends itself well to being spun long draw, so true woolen. If you guys, what I thought I would do is spin a full 2-ounce sample, and then we can compare the different wools together when we're done. The gray Suffolk, that's the UK kind of humbug mix, if you will, that was more like a medium wool. It didn't spin like a down at all. And then this, which is the true down, which is the breed specific Suffolk that's actually from Suffolk sheep. So if that would be helpful, I'll spin this whole 2 ounces for you guys and get it all sorted out. So let's just make sure that I've answered all of the questions. I used to spin faster. I have a 25-1 for my Kromsky and haven't used it. With the longer wools, I've been going slower. I don't feel so rushed. Oh, that's great, Alberto. Camel has been bothered. I have been binge watching the Great Pottery Throwdown, and one of the challenges is to throw a piece while blindfolded. Yes, Zan, that's awesome. Doing things from muscle memory is just fantastic. Welcome, Kelly. And what else? I think was that all of the questions, you guys, before we move on to sweater knitting? Thank you so much for joining us. Remember that the show is now going to be 8 o'clock. I didn't announce that at the beginning of the show. I've been putting it into the show notes and stuff, and I posted on Patreon. The reason for the change is because in the fall with soccer, 8:30 is a little bit too late if James is playing sometime between 8:30 and 9:30. It means that I can actually go and watch a bit of his games, because I don't want to always miss them. I threaded it over the flyer, Jennifer. Great question. I do that a lot, pretty much for all of my spins. The reason is because for me, if I get that really okay, there's a couple of reasons. Let me just turn and spin back to the camera, and I can talk to it properly. So let's just move back here and I'll chat about, I actually did a whole blog post on why I thread over the flyer, and I know that some people it doesn't work for them, and then for other people it's all that they do. I tend to be in the camp of it's all that I do. There's 3 reasons. The first reason is because it really helps with even filling of the bobbin, and I tend to start at the back of the bobbin and fill forward. So I tend to work all the way down and then I go right to the back and I fill again. And the reason for that, I've just started doing that in the last probably 5 or 6 months, is that I find that my bobbins fill more evenly and I can actually pack more fiber onto them. And so because I don't have the type of bobbins where you can go, I don't have a shacked bobbin, for example, where you go down the hooks one way and then up the hooks the other way. With all of my wheels, including my Kromsky, you go down one side. And so I find that if I just start at the back and I cross lace, it really fills the bobbin really evenly and I can pack a lot more fiber on. The other reason is that for your uptake, I find with my Lendrum especially, and probably actually my Majorcraft as well. So my Lendrum Saxony, my DT, and my Majorcraft Susie, I find that the uptake, I just can't get it just so. It's always a little bit too tight for me. I don't like a lot of uptake, and it's funny because whenever I've sat with spinning instructors, the first thing they do is they tighten up my uptake. And I tend to kind of and as soon as they tighten it up, just even like, we're talking like a millimeter, it's just too much pull for me. And so by cross lacing, it just takes a little bit of that resistance off of those singles for me. The wheel doesn't feel it, the singles don't feel it. It's totally the spinner. And actually Alden Amos talks about that in his book, that cross lacing is totally for the spinner. It's not anything to do with the singles or the wheel or what's happening in the physics of the actual yarn making. So definitely have a look at that if you guys haven't seen his hand spinning compendium. If somebody's on a desktop or a laptop, maybe you can link his book in the live chat if you have a minute to look it up on Amazon, just so people know what I'm talking about. The third thing is that I find that it just, there was a third thing. What is the third thing? The resistance when you're, and the resistance in the pull, the filling the bobbin. I'm drawing a blank. There was a third reason and I can't remember. Anyways, it'll come to me. So those are the 2 main reasons. Dorothy says she's blown away. Blown away by what, Dorothy? I want to know. I'm just catching up with chat, you guys, and just making sure you guys are talking a little bit about some TV that you really are enjoying. The Great Pottery Throwdown started that whole conversation. Morning, Martha. What is cross-lacing? So cross-lacing is this, actually, Josie. It's where the singles are going over the other side of the flyer arm. So let me just move the camera here and I'll show you right there. So this is cross-lacing here. So you can see that the singles are going from the bobbin around the flyer arm and across and then being threaded. So that's what we're talking about here. So one of the things, I know what I was going to say about the cross-lacing. I think it was Maggie Casey maybe, who was teaching. Cross-lacing was sort of really made quite popular by when the e-spinners started to get really popular. Because the e-spinners they're a little bit more difficult to get the uptake just right, and you've got this motorized mechanism turning your flyer and sort of dictating all of that. So the pull on e-spinners tends to be a little bit stronger, particularly on the Hanson and the Ashford. And so what a lot of e-spinner instructors advocate or will teach their students to do is to cross-lace, just to take some of that pull off of your singles and to give you a little bit more control. So people will often find when they start putting woolly winders on that the woolly winder really pulls quite strongly. And so a lot of people like that for plying, but then they'll pull their yarns off after plying and they're a little bit underplied. And it's because they were allowing that pull onto the wheel before there was actually enough twist in the plied yarn. And because with woolly winders you can't cross lace because there's the mechanism that actually is the woolly winder. So with a sort of more traditional flyer on an e-spinner, cross lacing just helps with that pull and that resistance. When you cross lace though, you don't want to take off the guide that's on the other arm. You want to have a guide on both arms on your e-spinners, whether it's a Hanson or an Ashford or a Starling, a Daedalus, or like any of them. And it has to do with balance. So what I do is I just push it toward the back and I still cross lace. So hopefully that helps. Zan is the opposite. She likes her wheels to be takers. Oh, that's awesome, Dorothy. Yeah, so blown is a blown away is a glass blowing show. So do you move on the arm before moving the eye side? Linda, do you mind just explaining your question a little bit better, because I'm not exactly sure. The side that the singles sit on, this naturally moves like this. It kind of goes back and forth, so you don't do anything with this side. You just keep moving your guide on this side. So now that I'm at the bottom here on this on the flyer here, we've kind of spun down to here doing that demonstration and talking through how to spin that Suffolk. I would actually go all the way back up to the top now, and this will just follow. This will just move up as I start to spin, and then as I move my guide back down, this will move down. So you don't actually touch your singles. I do cross lace for plying, Suzanne, because it fills your bobbin so evenly. So I find that I can fit a full 4 ounces on almost all of my bobbins, probably with the exception of my DT, because the Lendrum bobbins tend to be a little bit smaller, although I can fit a full 4 ounces on my Saxony, my Lendrum Saxony. And if I cross lace, I can fit them on very, very comfortably, unless it's a really bouncy, springy wool like this one. So this is Rito Archot, and we spun this and did a bit of a discussion at the wheel in the Wool Circle, which is our bi-monthly live stream that has to do with spinning at the wheel. So if you enjoy these segments, you might want to look at that, because that show is only at the wheel. Like we spend the whole live stream just at the wheel talking through all of this stuff. So this is my Rito Archot. This is from the Longway Homestead breed breed study. It's a 12-month program, so you enroll for the 12 months, and it is from Manitoba. It's from Anna, and the different breeds, I'm actually quite far behind now. I've only done, out of the 12, I've received probably 8 now, I think. I've actually spun up 4. I've done my Wensleydale, my Rito Archot, the Rambouillet, and the Finn. So I'm falling quite far behind. But this Rito ended up spinning up so quickly. I was sitting with Eve, and we were on Zoom together, and I was spinning it, and then all of a sudden, like, it was done. It was just crazy. But then plying took forever. So this is a 2-ply. I spun it long draw as well. Very bouncy, very springy. It reminded me a lot of my Frisian spin, which was that dark brown from was it last summer that I was spinning that? And I gave a lot of it away on the podcast because I had so much of it. And this has come up almost the same. It feels the same in terms of the toothiness. So it's not coarse, but it's not soft. So for some people, this would be a bit too scratchy for a cardigan. For me, this would be perfect. I would love to have another, probably, this is 4 ounces. I would love to have like another probably 12 ounces to be able to do a sweater. I'm not exactly sure what my yardage is, but I think this is around 350 yards because I lost a lot in the washing. It really shrunk up. But I'll just give you guys an up close. The light is quite dark today, that we don't have that beautiful sunlight. It's actually raining, which is great. But very downy, very there was quite a bit of VM in it. Not super even spinning, but that's kind of what you get with woolen yarns. And that'll knit out. It'll look great in the knitted fabric. Just beautiful. I loved this so much. So, yeah. It might be pronounced that way, actually, Dana. Redo. It's French. So it's Rito Archot. Yeah. So let me just skein this back up, and I think we've got a couple of questions. Actually, the person that we need today is Laureline or Helene. They would be able to tell us exactly how it's spelled, exactly how it's said, because they're en français. They are both francophone. They're from Quebec. Rito. Thank you, Diana. Rito Archot. So there you go. So very, very, very humbuggy. There was some white in there, some dark gray, almost kind of a browny gray, and then overall it kind of ends up being this like humbuggy color. So like this as a cardigan would just be awesome. So Diana was actually we split the Frisian with a couple other people. So it was the two of us and then our friend Kelsey and her mom. And so we split a bunch of fleeces in 4, which is how I've ended up with some of these fleeces. And Diana says the Frisian, she really enjoyed it too. I would actually really like to spin some more of that as well. I just love these really bouncy, springy, almost sort of downy, medium to downy kind of yarns that are just, they're fast to spin. They make just awesome sweater yarns. They don't pill. My Frisian has pilled a little bit in my short cardigan because I've worn it so much. So it started to pill a little bit under the arms. I just need to get a gleaner, and but it's worn just beautifully. And that dark brown, like you don't need to dye it. This you don't need to dye. It's just got its own beauty all unto itself. So yeah, just beautiful. All right, so I'm just having a look. Eve, you were wondering if there was Q&E this morning. There's no Q&E after the podcast. It's next week, just so that you guys know. We had talked about that last time. Let's talk about my sweaters that I've got going. Oh, Linda's got a great question. So what does humbug mean here? Humbug is where you have a whole bunch of different colors of roving or comb top, and they're sort of put together. So a humbug top or a fiber preparation is where you've got like different colors of, usually they're natural colors of fiber sort of together. So sometimes you'll have them like in a roving like this, and it'll sort of be combined where you'll have the dark, the medium, and the light. Jenny was actually working on a humbug recently that was beautiful, and they'll kind of be like, you know, put together like this. Sometimes they'll be carded together, sometimes they'll be combed together, sometimes they'll be more blended. It's usually just, and the way I'm using it here is that there's probably been quite a number of fleeces that Anna has combined to make all of these pin drafted rovings for this breed study. So the fin was like this, and the Rito was like this. A couple of the other ones that I've received are like this, where they've obviously got different colors of fleece in them, and they're all kind of pin drafted together, and they make this lovely heathering. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I wanted to share with you my larch cardigan. So this is that yarn that I was telling you guys about that is Deep Stash. This is a pattern by Amy Christophers or Christophers. I'm not exactly sure how you say her last name. I've never heard her say it personally. But I have several friends who have that last name and they say it Christophers. So whichever way. So I've knit this before, and it's funny because coming back to it and knitting it again, I'm remembering how much knitting there was in it. So now I'm like really regretting giving the cardigan away because I had obviously forgotten. So this is in sport weight yarn, which is actually why I chose it, because this yarn is sport weight, and it's hard to find really great sport weight sweaters. It's a really neat construction. So basically what you do, I'll stand up here so that you guys can see, and I'll move my chair back here. So what you do is you cast on your ribbing, and then you actually cast off. So let me just turn here so you can see it. So you cast on your ribbing and you knit your twisted rib, and then you cast off, and then you actually cast on again so that you get this beautiful braid. And then you knit straight, and it's an A line, so you're decreasing as you go up. And then when you get to the front, you cast off at both fronts, and these will actually overlap a little bit once it's finished. And then you finish off your shoulders, knit all the way up. And then once you're up at the top, you start to pick up the collar, and it's all twisted rib. And by picking up the collar and working your way around, it slowly and steadily makes that shawl collar that makes this cardigan just so lovely. And once you get down here and you've picked up all of your stitches, you actually knit straight. So you just keep on knitting all the way out. I'm trying to do this with the mirror. It's very difficult. I hope you guys can appreciate trying to explain things backwards. So once you get to here and you've picked up all your stitches, then you knit straight until you've got all of your rows so that you can seam this afterward. And that makes your shawl collar. And then you add button bands, little buttonholes after, so that it fastens on this side. You've got like little I-cord button loops that you add on afterward, and then you pick up and knit your shoulders. So your shoulder, the sleeves are actually seamed, and this is all curled under, so it looks really sparse, but it's actually just curled under. These actually come out quite far once you have the shaping, and then you sew the sleeves in. So the sleeves are knit separately because you have that same detailing at the cuff where you do your twisted rib, cast off, and then you pick back up on the wrong side. And that's what makes this gorgeous braid that goes along the bottom. I just love details like that. To me, that is worth it. Details like that are well worth the time to cast off and go back and pick up all of those 200 stitches. I just love it. So yeah, so that's the Larch cardigan. I'm really happy with how it's coming together. I just haven't worked on it a ton. I find twisted rib, I don't know about you guys, I would love to hear. I find the twisted rib really bugs my wrist. So it's very, very slow for me. It's not fast at all. I have to go really, really slowly. And it just, twisting the needle and every single time for the purl and the knit, it really bugs my wrist. But if you don't do it on that, and you don't twist both the knit and the purl, because it's a shawl collar and it folds back over, it would mess up the twisted rib. The name of her pattern is the Larch cardigan. Great question, Dorothy. It's a great pattern. Like I said, this is the second time knitting it. My sister-in-law actually just gave me a tub of knits back because she had borrowed a whole bunch of stuff when she was still working in a formal, like quite business casual type job. And so she had borrowed a whole bunch of my cardigans and stuff that didn't fit me anymore. And she's actually given me a tub of them back. And I don't want to look in the tub because I'm actually hoping that it's in there. I don't think it is, but I would love it to be in there. So that's the pattern there. That's the sweater when it's done. And you can see that you've got that just absolutely beautiful shawl collar. My row gauge is off. It's a little bit bigger. So my shawl collar part will actually be a little bit bigger than the pattern, which I actually am thankful for because I really like those slightly bigger shawl collars. So all right, you just put that away, otherwise I will lose it. And then this is my enchanté. So my enchanté, oh thanks Laura. Okay, I'll try that. My enchanté is out of my Beaumont and alpaca spin. So this was a 50-50 Beaumont alpaca. You can see that gorgeous halo from the alpaca. I haven't been sensitive to this, so I think there's enough Beaumont in here, that really fine white British wool, that the alpaca, there wasn't quite enough to set me off. And I'm knitting it with some kid mohair and silk from Chaotic Fibers that I picked up in a sale that they had. And this is the enchanté. This is a pattern by, is it Emily Louis? I'm actually blanking. I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me. Emily Louis, I'm almost positive. Yes. And I'm holding, and what I did, I think I talked about this last show, so I won't go on and on. I took the back, I wanted to take the back apart. So basically the back of the cardigan, you stopped knitting back here somewhere, and you cast it off so that you had quite a deep scoop at the back and then the deeper scoop at the front, and it just doesn't fit me. It doesn't work on my body. I don't like it. And so my plan was, and it was on my dress form for absolutely eons, to take it back, undo the 3-needle bind off at the shoulders, and to redo it. So I did that this week. It was like the only thing I did. I didn't do anything else. So I haven't actually tried it on yet. This might be a disaster. We'll see. But that is what. Oh, it's not bad. This is very, very warm. So all of the ends, and then you do a, come on, out of the way. You're tickling me. And then you do an I-cord bind off for the neckline. So I am going to dye this. I'm not going to leave it white. My friend Jenny, who's in the chat today, I asked her if I can send it to her and she would do it. So this all needs to be washed and blocked. This is gonna really drape because of all of that alpaca, but that is what it looks like. So that's it at the back. And it's a little bit, the only thing, and this is why I stopped knitting at when we were away this week, it's the arms are, I'm knitting the second smallest size. So I think it's the size medium, I think. Can't remember actually, to be honest, you guys. I find the depth of the armholes that she gives, it's a little bit short for me. And you can see that by lifting up the back, it really brought it up really nicely. So I think what I might do for the arms is just knit like 4 inches down, like knit to about here, maybe 3 inches after you do the shaping and knit down, and just try it on again and see if I like the tightness in the arm sky. Because unfortunately, if I don't, I'm gonna have to take this all apart again and add depth in the yoke. The other thing though is, like we always say as knitters, that'll block out. Well, it actually might. It might actually, just that drape might pull the arms down a bit, and because like you can see there's a lot of ease in there, a lot of stretch, that once it's washed and blocked, but I won't know until I actually get the stitches on the needle. You can't just wash and block it and then try it on again. Like you need to actually have the knitted stitches in there as well, if that makes sense. So this is kind of one of those situations where you sort of have to keep going for a little bit just to see what it's like. The nice thing is that the sleeves are stockinette. There's no lace in the sleeves, so it'll be quite fast. So anyhow, I'm really liking it. I think it's a good length. Because like I said, it'll stretch a bit more because of the alpaca, it'll drape, and I wouldn't want it any longer, because if it was way down here, it would sort of wouldn't be quite right. Whereas this way, it just kind of looks right with high-waisted jeans. So really pretty. I love this pattern. I cannot sing its praises enough. I'd actually really like to knit more of her sweaters. It's just beautifully written and really easy to follow. So yeah, I would highly recommend this pattern. This is Enchanté by Emily Louis. It's available in French and English. You just download the one that is your language. So really, really happy with that. Yeah, very pretty. It would look great even without the arms added. Yeah, Mary, actually that's not a bad idea, because you could do like a summer tank with it. If you chose, especially if you had some fiber or some yarn in your stash that was like a cotton blend or something that had a bit of drape, some linen. Oh, that would be amazing, because the lace, it would just look amazing in the lace. That would be really, really pretty. This is the second or third sweater that I've done now that's all over lace, because I did the Poet and then I did this. And it's funny because I thought that I would wear the Poet a lot, but it has been so hot this summer. The last thing that I've wanted is something on my like sleeves. But now that it's hopefully starting to cool down, I think I'll start pulling it out and wearing it. Sorry, the camera's a bit wobbly. I think it's a little bit loose on the table, so I'll make sure it's tightened up for next time, because I can see it wobbling a bit, and I don't want you guys to get dizzy. The weight of yarn that I used for the Enchanté, great question, Dorothy. So it's knit on 4mm needles. So the yarn held double with the Kid Mohair silk. ended up being about 14 wraps per inch. And I did knit it a little bit loose. I probably could have used a slightly thicker yarn, but I really wanted something light and airy because the alpaca is going to be so warm. So hopefully that helps. Now that I've pointed out the wobble, you guys are gonna notice it. All right, let's go into community participation unless there's any other questions. Okay, Suzanne says it will block out. I knit a lace form-fitting sweater in Barocco Ultra Alpaca, and it did loosen under the arm a bit with blocking. Okay, good to know, Suzanne. Thank you. All right, let's go into community participation because I am very aware of the time and keeping you guys forever and ever. All right, so this is some community participation from last week because I was expecting to do the podcast last week, and then of course you guys know what ended up happening. I ended up taking the week off. So for July, for our giveaway, we were doing our goals and our plans for Tour de Fleece, and then we were talking about what we had ended up doing. So I need to do random number generator from the comments on YouTube and from the episode thread in Ravelry. So we will have an announcement next week for whoever the random number generator picks for that. And you will be getting, for July, you will be getting a pack of 3 different little nests of fiber. They're each how many grams were each of them? 10 grams each of different combinations of the camelids for our camelid study. And actually I haven't mailed out June's or May's yet because I was having trouble with the software for Canada Post. So I think it's fixed now and I'll be able to get that all done this week for you guys and get those 3 months into the mail. And I will find out who the winner is for July and I'll get that out to you guys. So for August, I can't believe it's August already. We are already sort of into August, but because we're more than halfway through the year, how are you doing with your yearly plans? Do you have any? Do you make plans for the year? And how are you feeling about your making this year so far? So tell us in the Ravelry group thread or in the comments here on YouTube. So not in the live chat here. We want to hear about it in the episode thread or on the comment section of YouTube. So I actually just realized that we don't have a August episode thread yet. So let me just start one and it won't let me. There we go. All right, so this is it here and I will post that in the live chat and I will also put it into the show notes at patreon.com/posts, and I will throw that into the link into the the show notes for you guys. So tell us how you're doing with your yearly plans and if you have any. Do you make plans and how are you feeling about your making this year so far? All right, so Julie, you guys wasted no time getting going on our current breed and color study. So this time around, we're studying Jacob. I think I have mine right here, actually. I am going to be combining a whole bunch of stuff. So this is some black Jacob that I bought a while ago from World of Wool. I've had it in my stash for quite a long time. And then Katrina made up these kits for us that are just amazing. And this is the kit. So you can do what you want with the kit. And then she did what she wanted for you guys with these beautiful nests of fiber. And people have already finished spinning. They were so excited that they've actually already finished the spinning. And if you are going to Knit City Mini the first weekend in October here in Vancouver, Katrina might actually have 1 or 2 with her. So if you want to see them in person before you purchase, you might actually see her with 1 or 2. I think there's a couple left. So this is Julie's share Amazing. I love this so much. I might copy you, Julie. Breed and Color Study Jacob's packs arrived yesterday. I used my combs to make a lighter gray at 4 parts white to 1 part dark. Then used combs as a hackle to split the green in half and combine with pink and yellow, then with blue and orchid. This is feeling like a sweater yoke in color work. My secret weapon is a Jacob fleece waiting in the garage whose dark and light are a very good match to the dark and light in the kit. Off to study patterns or perhaps develop my own. If you have yoke sweater patterns spring to mind, do share, sampling ahead. Isn't this amazing? So my favorite photo in this whole montage is this one right here where she's actually pulling it through her diz off of her comb. I just look at those colors, and that's what she ended up with for the roving. So that was that gorgeous purple orchid and the blue and the yellow. Just amazing. Beautiful, Julie. Thank you for sharing. This is from Kaylee. She's already spun. So despite having 2 partially completed breed and color study projects, the Jacob spoke to me instantly. So it hopped on the wheel the day it came. I made a 3-ply yarn in each color. Excuse me, sorry. And it will be used in a color work project. Ended up with 160 yards of heavy sport weight. Isn't that beautiful? This actually reminds me a lot of some of the yarn that was shared in our breeding color study that we did in the Shetland, where people had these gorgeous heathered yarns where you've got the natural color of the fleece coming through with hits of color, where people had used the Shetland as a way of managing color. Just beautiful. Yes, I know, Zan. She's like, already finished? I haven't even finished just looking at it. I know, me too. That's how I felt when I saw the photos coming up. I was like, this is amazing. This is from Kelly. I love this too. So Kelly spun singles and plied for her Jacob breeding color study. She's looking forward to winding this off and feeling the squishiness. Looks amazing, Kelly. I can't wait to see the finished yarn. So, and then to hear how you managed the kit, because it looks like you spun a lot of it. I think you spun it as a gradient. So I think you did the dark and then the medium and then the light. Because if you look at the carded nests, I think what Kelly did was she spun all of the dark, all of the light gray or medium gray, and then all of the white, and then plied it as a 2-ply. So it looks like she did sort of from dark to light and then from dark to light, and split these in half so that she would have a 2-ply. Beautiful. And when you do that, it'll create a little bit of barber pulling in those sections where you've got the transition from dark to medium, medium to the white. But it's very pleasing because it really, when you knit with it, it looks like a slow transition. So definitely a great way of spinning and creating yardage. All right, I'm not used to talking this much. I didn't talk very much this week because I was with my mom, so she did the talking. Now my voice is like, what are you doing to me? This is Spindle Spun Summer. So Spindle Spun Summer has been going on throughout this summer. We started on the summer solstice and we are going to finish on the autumnal equinox. This is a chance to just celebrate all things spindles. And I had all of these grand plans of spindle spinning this summer, and I just have not gotten very much done this summer at all. In terms of spinning, I'm sure you guys have noticed I have not spun very much yardage this summer like I normally do. I just have not gotten the time on my wheel. I've been trying to finish my Karma because I'm on the last little bit and like no go. So this is from Josie for Spindle Spun Summer. I love these colors, Josie. I finally finished my Corriedale that has been languishing for years, and the spindling bug bit me again. I have to admit I ply on my wheel, though I am always surprised to see I managed to spin relatively consistent spindles, and I love the finished skeins. I find I spin very, very consistently on my spindles. My spindle spun yarns are very consistent, so I'm not surprised about that at all. This is from Mary Jo. She is clearing off spindles, making plying balls, and she realized she had 3 spindles that she enjoys spinning with, and she wondered why. The first picture is of the 3 spindles she used, and the second are the spindles that remain parked on the shelf. The Turkish spindle is a Schneider, and the type I used the first time spindle clicked for me, and it is my most used spindle. Then there is the top whorl spindle made of cedar, which I tend to also grab when I'm sampling. And the last is the pretty bottom whorl spindles. That's that beautiful green one there. Made from a woodworker that didn't start out as a spindle maker, but instead he carved Christmas ornaments, and a spinner asked him to make modifications so that to turn them into spindles. So this week I think I'm going to spin on the spindles that don't get used and figure out why. I think that's a great idea. Diana's been doing this recently because there was an article, I think Debbie Held wrote it. It was in Spin-Off, I feel like. Maybe Diana, you can chime in about spinning through your spindle fleet and figuring out which ones you want to keep and why, and letting go of some of the ones that you don't use. Beautiful. This is from Shauna. She finished her most recent ply on the Fly mini skein. It's 13 grams and about 57 yards. This is going to in my hand spun jelly roll blanket. Really fun, Shauna. That's just absolutely beautiful. I love that hit of purple in there. This is from Kimberly. Have bike and spindle, will travel. Absolutely. Yes. And you're getting your exercise in. Our natural shades along is going on all year, and I think actually what we might do is just keep this going. I think we're just going to our natural shades along, our luxury fibers along, and our zero to hero. I think we're just going to keep those three alongs going like indefinitely so that people have a place to share this stuff as they make and as they go along. So our natural shades along, I just posted the link for in the Ravelry, like the Ravelry thread where we're sharing a lot of this stuff, and then also people are sharing in the natural shades along in that channel on Slack. This is from Elise. Hi everyone, I'm new here. Welcome, Elise. And I am excited to have people who get it when it comes to spinning. You have an entire community of people who get it, Elise, now. So use us, use our expertise and whatnot. I am having such a slog getting through this current spin. I started almost a year ago now. It is mint fiber. I should have put this in luxury fibers along actually, from Paradise Fibers. So it's a cellulose-based fiber. She spun some of this fiber as a new spinner and hoped it would get easier coming back with more experience. But alas, it is still difficult. The main thing with these fibers, Elise, is that they need a lot of twist. They're very slippery and they need twist to hold together. They don't have scales, they're processed. They're not natural fibers in the sense of being like a wool or a cotton. So they're natural-esque, but they're manufactured. And so they, there is plant matter in them, like they are cellulose-based, but there's nothing that holds them together. So you need an inordinate amount of twist. And once you're getting enough twist into them, generally they're a little bit easier to spin. But you know, depending on how they were manufactured and how it was made and the processing that it went through, these fibers don't have staples, they don't have scales, they don't have a lot of the things that we come to rely on when we're spinning wool. So patience, your finished yarn is absolutely beautiful. There's also little clumps that show up occasionally that don't want to draft out. So that's from the manufacturing process. There's like little bits of, you know, matter that hasn't broken down, or it's some of the like spinning waste that kind of gets mixed in. Sometimes there's like oils and dirt and stuff that gets mixed in. There's lots of different things that can happen. Just pull those clumps out. Remember, this stuff is it's cut, it's all different kind of you're not going to get a yarn necessarily that's like spun silk, you know, that's like this big, long, just beautiful length of fiber where you've spun this silk just, you know, and it's absolutely meticulous. It's going to have a little bit of texture to it usually. Bamboo can often be the same. I find like C-cell, not so much Tencel, but C-cell can be like this, soy fiber, banana fiber. They're all kind of, they have that in them. Rose fiber sometimes has it. After a second trip through the wheel, I remember why I love this fiber. It's soft and drapey and has a beautiful sheen. It feels like silk and is a fraction of the price. The first skein is 130 grams and I got 687 yards of 2-ply, probably about 25 wraps per inch. Just beautiful. I'm intending to make the olive top with this, so I don't need much more, and am planning also to dye the yarn a rust orange colors first. So want to make sure I have plenty of margin. Beautiful. It'll take the dye. Absolutely beautiful. Does it smell like mint? Dana asks. I suspect not, but that is a hilarious question. That's awesome. This is from Josie. I finished my fin fiber from the spinning School of Sweet Georgia's sheep breed study kit. Somehow I thought it was not so easy to spin, short staple, very little grab, but the resulting yarn is a beautiful 2-ply DK weight. I will start the down breeds next to catch up. Beautiful, Josie. I love this. I'm glad that you went and spun it right away. You're right. It was very short stapled. It needed a little bit more twist than fin sometimes needs. Not super, super, super soft by any stretch, but I wouldn't call it toothy either. Definitely a medium wool. Yeah. This is from Amanda. Actually, funnily enough, I had this all queued up and ready to go. And then Felicia shared this on the office hours for the School of Sweet Georgia as well. So Amanda, you've just done beautiful work here. This is the latest scarf off the loom. She called it her Felicia scarf because it uses Sweet Georgia yarns in the warp, and it is an amalgamation of a couple of projects over at the School of Sweet Georgia. The BFL and Silk Fine is the warp, where the skeins were the skeins that she won as part of their spin make along this year. Lucky me. And the weft is leftover hand-spun merino singles from a sweater spin. The weft wasn't spun to be used as singles. The sweater spin was a 3-ply, but it worked out in the end. The scarf is a bit too orange for my current spectacles, but it suits my husband, so he gets a new scarf. Lucky for him. It's beautiful, and I love it with that t-shirt that he's wearing. Amanda, that outfit, nailed it. All right, this is from Jenny Zan. Yes, you're right. It would need a fiber reactive dye. I don't think the acid dyes would take to the mint because you've got a cellulose-based fiber. Yeah, Mary's chiming in. Yes, that's great. So this is from Jenny. She finished this some time ago, but she hadn't posted it. It totally reflects the fleece, and she let the colors fall where they may. She's been working on this fleece for quite a while, and I can't remember what the fleece actually was. And she didn't say in her post, but the sweater came out just absolutely beautiful, Jenny. Really well done. I love this. And I like the buttons that you picked to go with it. It's just a really perfect V-neck cardigan. It's just perfect. Maggie says, I love that scarf. Makes me want to get a project on my loom. Yeah, it actually did the same to me, Maggie. And I was thinking about pulling out my what's it called? No, it's not circus. I always want to call it circus, but it's not circus. What is that cardigan called that I was working on? The cruiser. And do the same and weave up a big blanket out of my CVM mohair in that crazy, crazy blood orange. Because the cruiser has ended up being so massive, and I don't want to start modifying it and try to figure out all the short rows and whatnot. So I was thinking about just pulling it, and I haven't done anything with it yet, but it's a lot of knitting to pull out, so I'm feeling a little bit bummed about it. It's on timeout. This is from Sarah. I finished a baby sweater for a sweet friend. The fiber is Shetland and is super soft. The colorway is called Frosted Pumpkin. I used a chain ply to ply the yarn and keep the colors together, and that allowed random stripes, which I adore in this sweater. I used the baby vertebrate pattern by Kelly Van Niekerk. I think it's Niekerk. Just beautiful. I actually knit this as an adult sweater years and years and years ago, and I never wore it, and it went into the donation bin. It was way before I started the podcast. I think it might have been like 2008, 2007 maybe that I knit it. It's not a new pattern. I think it's free if you guys remember, if any of you know. And it's for babies and adults and everything in between. This is from Suzanne. I'm posting this in Zero to Hero even though it isn't a full-size garment, since it challenged me in several ways that were new to me. For the project, the challenge was to pick a one skein design and to create a yarn for that design. I picked Zuzu's petals and decided I liked the gradient versions from the project's area best. I had this Frabjuice Fibers BFL, and with a repeated gradient colorway in my stash. I knew that since it repeated more than once, it wouldn't end up being a gradient in the cowl without a bit of manipulation. I decided to separate it into chunks according to color after splitting it in half vertically to fill 2 bobbins for a 2-ply yarn. I am pleased with the results. I spun the exact gradient I had in mind. the yardage was more than what is needed for the cowl, so I did have to break the color after the yellow and again after the spring green to get each color and to make sure the teal was included. I love that teal. It's just beautiful. However, I still considered this a successful gradient yarn since it would have worked really well for a larger shawl the way it was spun. Beautiful. This is totally a win, Suzanne. Just absolutely beautiful. All right, this is our sampling, sample spinning and play section. So we've been really trying to celebrate play in our community this year. I think we underestimate the value of play as adults. We sort of forget how to play as we get older. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by play instinct, from Carl Jung. This is from Dana. I forgot to show you some towels. I got finished on my loom. I had enough warp left on my loom for 4 towels. Left on my loom for 4 more towels. It had sat untouched since last summer. I love the play of the stripes in this, Dana. I think you just nailed it. I love that gorgeous kind of taupey camel color with the gray and the white. I think they just look so crisp and so clean. Really, really lovely. And then the white warp just sets it all off and makes it really, really lovely. Lovely. This is from Diana. She's been playing blue BFL merino silk, sari silk weighed out into 4 45-gram sections and drum carded using 3 passes. No plans for these bats, just experimenting with making multiple bats. Aren't they beautiful? These are amazing. That sari silk in there, oh, gorgeous. Love that. So much fun, Diana. This is from Maria. Very excited to have bought a new to me Ashford rigid heddle loom. 12-inch loom, great for practice and sampling. About 10 years ago, I had one of these, but only used it a couple of times as my family were very young and my time felt limited. Anyway, now I am really enjoying this newfound craft. Dare I say I've already looked at a floor loom and table looms. Yes, I've fallen down the rabbit hole. Welcome, Maria. It's a fun rabbit hole. Anyway, here are a couple of my scarves using handspun as warp and lots of handspun in the weft too, alongside some commercial yarn and hand-dyed yarns by me. I love the scrappiness of these. They make me think of those, my mom's a quilter and it makes me think of those scrappy quilts that my mom makes them, and I just love how the faux plaid comes through. It's scrappy. It just, oh, this one in particular, I just love it. I think it's fantastic. Well done, Maria. Well done. We have quite a few Marias in our community too, and quite a few Marys. Just wonderful. I think that is it for today. We've had a good show. Long show, good show. I hope you guys have really enjoyed coming together again and being together again. It always feels right when we're all together. I think Mars has she calls it, she has a name for our live stream mornings, woolen spinning mornings. She's got a clever phrase for them, and it's just escaping me right now. So I hope that over the next week that you have a really, really wonderful week and that you're enjoying the weather wherever you are. I hope that the wildfires and the forest fires aren't too bad where you are. My thoughts are with you. I'm very thankful that we live where we live, that we're a little bit further away from it all. But I'm very aware that there are many people that are very affected by them, just like they were last summer. And so just thinking of all of you that are affected by really hot weather and fires. To everybody else, have a wonderful week. I hope it's full of making and spinning and all the good things. And I will see you guys. Eve said last Saturday was weird. I missed you. Yeah, I missed you guys too. It's funny how I really needed a break. I couldn't do it. But I also really missed doing it. Like as soon as 8:30 rolled around, I was like, oh, So sometimes it's bittersweet taking a break, because this to me does not feel like work. This to me feels very much like connecting with like-minded people who love to do what I love to do. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys next week. We've got a Maker Morning coming up this week on Thursday. So if you're around and you're part of the Patreon community, please don't hesitate to jump on. I will post the Zoom links on Wednesday evening so that you have access to them. You don't have to sign up anymore. Just come. That's at 7 a.m. on Thursday morning Pacific Daylight Time. And we've got virtual spin this week. We've got Q&E next week. We also have the Wool Circle this coming Friday. So for those who are part of the Wool Circle, do mark that on your calendar for 7 a.m. on Friday morning. I will see you guys then. So until next time, happy spinning, happy knitting, happy all the things. Bye, guys.